I watched with amazement. I was on air while the press conference with the two presidents was going on. I watched in amazement that an in-person plea by Volodymyr Zelensky, who has really turned out to be one of the most formidable leaders that we have seen in, I don't know, half a century, fell essentially on deaf ears with some of your Republican colleagues.
Well, Ali, it's good to be with you. And, President Biden was right that the Republicans have no positive vision for the country. All they seem to be able to agree on is to launch this bogus impeachment proceeding in the House. Meanwhile, I was in the room when President Zelensky made this really strong appeal to America to continue to support Ukraine, given the ongoing vicious attacks that Putin's launched on Ukrainian sovereignty, on Ukrainian freedom. And yet, while there was a lot of nodding of heads in the room, there was no change when we walked out of the room. You still have so many Republicans heeding Donald Trump and refusing to support Ukraine. Others are coming up with excuses that we've got to do some other things in order to move on to that. Meanwhile, as we've seen, you've got Russians. I mean, you've got Putin's cronies openly praising members of the Republican Party for blocking support to Ukraine. This is a scary moment for democracy around the world and, of course, democracy here at home with this bogus impeachment proceeding.
Senator, as a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, you think a lot about these things. The consequences of us pulling back from Ukraine are remarkable in that it actually could cost Ukraine its success on the battlefield. But more importantly, or not more importantly, but differently, it sends a message to our allies in NATO, whom this president has worked very hard, President Biden has worked very hard to get to step up. And in fact, our partners in this war have spent more money than America has. But it sends messages to autocrats around the world as well about, well, America, after a while, will stand down.
Well, that's exactly right, because one of the great success stories in mobilizing help for the Ukrainian people has been President Biden's leadership in assembling the alliance and getting NATO to step up, and they have. And yet, when our NATO colleagues see what's happening, it's going to send a terrible message that when push comes to shove, the United States is not there. And it's not just our NATO allies. Of course, it's allies in East Asia, whether it be Japan, South Korea. And while our allies will worry a lot more, our adversaries will be cheering this moment as Republicans try to pull the rug out from under Ukraine and wave the white flag. I mean, President Xi, we all know, he's watching the United States very carefully as he makes his own calculations regarding Taiwan or other efforts in the region. So this is a big moment for American leadership. I still cannot believe that at the end of the day, the United States will not come through, that Republicans won't wake up. But right now, we're at a very dangerous place.
Senator, there's also been a warning that the president has put out on the other major international issue we're dealing with, the Israel-Gaza war, in which he has criticized the current composition of the Israeli government and saying it has to change, and warning Israel that the civilian deaths in Gaza are causing international support to erode. Your thoughts on this?
Well, that's right. This was a very important moment today where President Biden called out Prime Minister Netanyahu and his very right-wing coalition for the conduct of the war. Look, President Biden's been very clear that we support the objective of ending the military threat from Hamas. But in his comments, he talked about the indiscriminate bombing taking place in Gaza. And we also witnessed the heads of major international humanitarian organizations yesterday say that they've worked around the world for decades, and they've never seen a worse humanitarian catastrophe than we're witnessing in Gaza. These are organizations like CARE, Save the Children, Oxfam, And this really needs to be put at the doorstep in terms of humanitarian assistance being blocked. The Netanyahu government and people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir within that government who have been really restricting aid to Gaza and creating this very desperate situation through the siege.
Let me ask you about the amendment that you have put forward. You've got the support of several of your colleagues on this, in which you say that any defense articles or defense services provided pursuant to this act shall be used in accordance with international law, including international humanitarian law and the law of armed conflict and the United States law. The president shall obtain assurances that the recipient country will cooperate fully with any United States efforts and United States-supported international efforts to provide humanitarian assistance to civilians in an area of conflict where United States defense articles or defense services are being used by the recipient. Where are you on this?
So, Ali, we have strong and growing support for this common sense amendment. And I should stress that it applies to all the recipients of U.S. military assistance covered by the bill. It would apply to Ukraine. It would apply to any countries in East Asia that receive military assistance. And yes, it would also apply to Israel. John Feiner, who's the Deputy National Security Advisor, has said publicly on TV that the United States already requires recipients of U.S. military assistance to comply with international humanitarian law and U.S. law. So we're just restating that very important principle. It's already current law in one form or another that countries that don't cooperate with U.S. efforts to provide humanitarian assistance can't receive U.S. security assistance. And then we have a very important third provision in here, Ali, which is reporting requirements. We want the president to report to the Congress and the American people whether or not the countries that are receiving this U.S. military assistance, using the benefits of these taxpayer dollars, are in fact using that equipment in accordance with international humanitarian law and American law, whether they are in fact cooperating fully with our efforts to provide humanitarian assistance, and importantly, whether they're comporting with other U.S. policies that are in place to reduce civilian casualties in war. So these are important pieces, both to make requirements clear, but also to have reporting requirements so that we can hold all of these countries accountable for use of U.S. military equipment purchased with American taxpayer dollars.